Hey everybody, Andy Nelson. So, has anybody heard the word gamos? And I'm probably saying that wrong because it's a Greek word and I don't speak Greek, so I just follow the letters and that's how I pronounce it. Using a foreign word. Can you use a foreign word as a trademark for yourself? Can you use it as a brand identifier for your mark? You know the answer is yes, because you see words, you see brand names every day that are certainly foreign words. But here is a danger. So if you think, let me give you a stupid example. You want to start a consumer electronics company, and you're going to say, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call it Apfel, basically taking the German word for apple. That is not going to work. I mean, one, the German word just happens to be very close to the English word anyway, it would probably cause confusion. But even if it was something bizarrely different than apple, and I know there's a bunch of examples that are probably right in front of my face I'm not thinking of, from different languages, but what we have here in the U.S., and you can see why this would be the case, is something we call the Doctrine of Foreign Equivalence. In other words, fancy phrase for saying foreign words, if you adopt them as trademarks or foreign phrases or what have you, for purposes of analyzing whether they might be confusing or would lead to consumer confusion with another mark, we translate it into English. So your foreign mark gets translated into English. So that can cause confusion problems, but also other sorts of barriers to getting to enforcing or building rights, registering rights. And here's a great one. So the word I gave you at the start, again, gamos, I don't know if that's right or not. There was an attempt to register that mark in connection with jewelry. And you're thinking, okay, sounds perfectly fine. It's not the word jewelry. It's not generic. It's not like a piece of jewelry, choker, or some descriptive word like that. But if you translate that word, gamos, I guess, into English, it basically means, I understand it means wedding, matrimony, marriage, kind of means all that. And so when you have, if you're translating to English and you have marriage or matrimony, wedding, and you make that your mark for jewelry, which is specifically matrimonial jewelry, that's pretty descriptive. And if you watch some of my other videos, you'll note that I mentioned that legally descriptive trademarks are on the weaker side. In fact, they're often considered not trademarks at present, being used as trademarks, but don't really have rights because descriptive marks, when viewed by the public, aren't viewed as source identifiers initially. They may get there later as the Consumer Association builds, but they're often treated as having pretty thin rights early on that can build over time. So in this case, that mark was applied for. It sounds perfectly arbitrary and weird when it's in its native language, but you translate it into English and it becomes descriptive. And then the trademark office in this case said, you know what, this is not functioning as a trademark, so we're not going to advance it as a trademark. There are ways around it to get some lighter rights. I won't talk about that here. But nonetheless, it's a kick in the teeth, right? It does not get you where you want to go. So the lesson here is if you want to use a foreign word, and a lot of those sound cool, to use as marks because they sound like they're arbitrary words because nobody knows what they mean, you do have to translate it into English to analyze whether it's going to interfere or conflict with another existing mark. And also determine whether it's generic. I mean, if you take the foreign word, I mean, you can't take cerveza and say, I'm going to have cerveza brand beer, right? Because that's just saying beer, brand beer. So you can't do that. So it helps you to translate and then understand how it's being used to make sure it's not generic, not descriptive. Hopefully, descriptive might be okay because you can build those rights, but you prefer not to, all things being equal. And then, of course, conflicting or potentially conflicting with another existing mark. You got to translate it into English. So anyway, that's it for today. Something to think about. If you have any questions, drop me a note, send me a message, drop me a comment, and if somebody would benefit from the contents of this video, please feel free to share it. So until the next one, have a good one.